For every 100 extra horsepower you squeeze out of your car, you cut your engine's life almost in half. Sounds insane, right? But it's true. The promise of performance mods is tempting. More power, more speed, more adrenaline. But what most drivers don't realize is that many of these upgrades do the exact opposite of what they're supposed to do. Instead of giving you a faster, stronger car, they silently tear your engine apart, drain your wallet, and in some cases even land you with fines big enough to bankrupt you. Some of the so-called performance mods we're about to cover can wreck your catalytic converter, crack pistons, and trigger damage bills running into the thousands. Others are illegal enough to get you slapped with a 5-figure penalty or dangerous enough to send drivers straight to the ER. And here's the kicker. Many of these mods don't even give you the performance boost they promise. In fact, they can make your car slower, less responsive, and way less reliable. So today, we're pulling back the curtain on the most popular mods that secretly destroy engines. And stick around, because after the worst offenders, I'll show you the 5 upgrades that actually deliver real horsepower and torque without wrecking your ride. Let's get into it. On paper, performance camshafts sound like a dream. Install one, and you can unlock up to a 30% boost in horsepower and torque. That's enough to transform a stock ride into a track-ready beast. Sounds amazing, right? But here's the problem. The track and the street are two very different worlds. Aggressive camshafts shift the power band higher up the RPM range. That means instead of more low-end grunt for quick launches or smooth city driving, you actually lose it. Suddenly your car feels sluggish in stop-and-go traffic. And while you're fighting through that rough idle, your fuel bill is climbing because increased valve lift and duration mess with combustion efficiency. But the hidden dangers are where it gets ugly. If your camshafts aren't tuned with precision, you end up with either a lean or rich air-fuel mixture. Lean mixtures lead to overheating and detonation. Rich mixtures flood your engine, leaving you with rough idles, wasted fuel, and premature wear. And then comes the overlap problem. Sure, it makes your exhaust sound throatier, but it also dumps unburned fuel into your catalytic converter. That repair alone can cost you over $2,000. Add in the stress on your valve train, and you're looking at broken springs, retainers, and lifters, another $4,000 bill. Here's the worst part. Performance camshafts don't even work on their own. They only make sense when combined with a full suite of supporting upgrades: intake, exhaust, fueling, and tuning. Without those, you're just paying thousands to wreck your engine faster. And believe it or not, the next so-called upgrade is even worse, because it's marketed as a miracle fix, when in reality, it could torch your pistons before you even know what hit you. When you spend 2 to 4 times the money on high-performance spark plugs, you expect them to work miracles. More horsepower, better fuel economy, longer lifespan. At least that's what the ads promise. But the reality? They rarely deliver anything close. Here's the truth. Not all spark plugs are created equal, and not all of them are even compatible with your engine. Use the wrong heat range, and you're basically setting up your pistons for disaster. Too hot, and you risk pre-ignition, where the fuel mixture explodes before it should, slamming into your pistons like a hammer. Too cold, and the plugs foul out quickly, causing misfires, sluggish acceleration, and wasted fuel. And it doesn't stop there. If the plug gaps aren't set correctly, the whole system suffers. A gap that's too tight creates weak sparks, burning extra fuel without adding power. A gap that's too wide misfires at high RPMs, which can lead to raw fuel slipping into your exhaust system. A recipe for both wasted money and future engine problems. Here's the kicker. If you're running a stock engine, standard copper plugs will perform just as well as those pricey iridium or platinum ones. The only real difference might be the size of the hole they burn in your wallet. In the worst cases, performance plugs don't just fail to improve horsepower. They can actually damage your pistons and catalytic converter. So unless your engine has been modified in other ways that require specific plugs, the safest bet is often the one that came with your car from the factory. But while spark plugs are often an overpriced disappointment, the next mod on this list is something much more sinister. Because instead of just wasting your money, it removes one of your car's most important safety features and can leave your engine in pieces. The rev limiter might seem like a nuisance, but in reality, it's your engine's guardian angel. It's there to protect you when things get too intense. Once your RPMs hit the red line, the ECU cuts fuel or ignition to keep your engine safe. Simple, effective, life-saving. But some drivers think they're smarter than the engineers and rip the limiter out. And sure, it feels wild. Your engine screams higher, your speed climbs, and for a few seconds you think you've unlocked free power. Then reality comes crashing down. Here's what happens behind the scenes. Most stock valve trains simply aren't designed for sky-high RPMs. Push them too far, and the valves can't close fast enough. This leads to something called valve float. And once a valve makes contact with the piston, you're dealing with bent valve stems, cracked cylinder heads, and repairs that can easily top $4,500. It doesn't stop there. At extreme RPMs, your fuel injectors can't keep up. They max out, your engine runs lean, and suddenly you're in detonation territory, where uncontrolled combustion tears apart pistons, spark plugs, and even the block itself. Add in oil starvation and brutal mechanical stress on the drivetrain, and you've just cut years off your engine's life in a matter of minutes. And the cruel twist? Removing the rev limiter doesn't even make you faster in real-world driving. All it does is take a perfectly healthy engine and put it on a fast track to destruction. But as bad as destroying your engine is, the next mod takes things to another level. Because not only does it wreck your car, it can leave you with a $5,000 fine, all for chasing a performance boost that barely exists. On the surface, deleting your exhaust gas recirculation system, or EGR, seems like a clever move. Less carbon buildup, a cleaner intake, maybe even a slight power bump. Sounds good, right? But in reality, it's one of the dumbest performance mods you can make. First off, the legal side alone should scare you. Removing the EGR isn't just frowned upon, it's illegal. The EPA can slap you with fines up to $5,000, and shops caught doing it have been hit with penalties in the tens of thousands. All for a mod that gives you, at best, a barely noticeable increase in power. Now let's talk about what happens inside your engine. The EGR is tied into your car's management system. Yank it out, and suddenly your ECU thinks the world has gone sideways. You'll trigger a check engine light, maybe even force your car into limp mode. Sure, you could try to bypass it with a tune, but even then, you're not out of the woods. Without an EGR, combustion temperatures skyrocket, and when temps rise too high, your engine is a ticking time bomb. Knock, detonation, warped components, all of it comes knocking at your door. To counteract that, you'd have to upgrade your cooling system, which means spending thousands more dollars to support a mod that barely gives you 1% more power in the first place. So what you end up with is a slower, less reliable car, a bank account that's bleeding, and the constant threat of a fine. In other words, the EGR delete is all downside, no upside. But at least when you delete your EGR, you know what you're messing with. The next mod on this list? It's even worse, because a tiny mistake in the mixture can blow your entire engine apart in an instant. In the world of performance mods, water methanol injection has a legendary reputation. Done right, it's like unlocking a hidden cheat code, cooler combustion temps, detonation prevention, and a 10 to 15% boost in horsepower and torque. That's more than most mods could ever dream of. But here's the catch. This upgrade is as dangerous as it is powerful. One small mistake, and your engine goes from hero to zero in seconds. The mixture is the first landmine. Most setups demand a perfect 50-50 blend of water and methanol. Too much methanol, and you get carbon buildup, incomplete combustion, and even power loss. Too much water, and you risk hydrolock, where water floods the cylinders and bends rods or cracks pistons under the pressure. That's a $3,000 repair bill just for starters. And the scariest part? Modern ECUs can be tuned to lean heavily on water meth for detonation prevention. That means the moment your pump fails, a nozzle clogs, or the system hiccups for even a second, your engine faces a massive spike in heat and pressure. Pistons crack, gaskets blow, and in the blink of an eye, the entire motor is toast. It's no wonder experienced mechanics say, if you can't afford proper fail-safes, don't even think about touching water methanol injection, because without them, You're basically gambling your engine's entire life every time you hit the gas. But if that sounds risky, wait until you hear what happens when drivers cheap out on basic bolt-ons. Because the next two mods are some of the most common budget upgrades, and they'll destroy your engine faster than you'd ever expect. Every car enthusiast eventually looks at their stock exhaust manifold and thinks, "This thing is choking my engine." And they're right. Stock manifolds are designed for noise control and emissions, not performance. That's why aftermarket headers are so popular. Better flow, more torque, and a throatier sound. But here's the problem. Cheap headers do the opposite. Built from thin, low-grade steel, they radiate heat straight into your engine bay, cooking rubber hoses, wires, and plastic parts that were never meant to handle that kind of stress. They corrode faster, crack easier, and usually don't even fit right. And if you don't pair them with proper ECU tuning, that improved airflow just causes a lean condition, leading straight to detonation and engine damage. Cold air intakes tell the same story. It's a $1.5 billion market, which means millions of drivers are bolting them on. But the cheap ones? They're nothing but trouble. Many come with oiled filters, and when owners inevitably over-oil them, that residue coats the MAF sensor. Result: bad readings, poor fuel trims, and weaker performance. Even worse, cheap filters let in dust and debris that grind down piston rings, valves, and bearings over time. And the biggest scam of all? So-called cold air intakes that actually suck in hot engine bay air. Instead of more power, you get heat-soaked performance, lean conditions, overheating, and in the worst cases, total engine failure. Here's the brutal truth. Cheap bolt-ons aren't upgrades. They're ticking time bombs. If you can't afford to do it right, don't do it at all. But while cheap bolt-ons slowly eat away at your engine, the next mod is far more dramatic. Because when you go too big with forced induction, the results aren't just disappointing, they're catastrophic. There's no debate here. Bigger turbos and superchargers can deliver insane horsepower gains. A well-tuned setup can take a car from pretty quick to borderline terrifying in seconds. But when drivers bolt on massive forced induction without the right support, disaster is guaranteed. Here's why. The larger the turbo, the more heat it generates. And that heat doesn't just disappear. It cooks pistons, melts gaskets, and overwhelms your cooling system. Combine that with excessive boost pressure, and you're staring down the barrel of melted pistons, engine knocking, and blown head gaskets. And that's just the start. Bigger turbos demand more fuel. If you don't upgrade your injectors, fuel pump, and tuning to match, you'll run lean. A lean mixture underboost is like playing Russian roulette with your engine. It detonates, and the weakest part gives out. For some drivers, that's a piston. For others, the entire block. Even if the engine survives, drivability takes a hit. Huge turbos come with massive turbo lag. That means in everyday driving, instead of quick throttle response, your car feels slower and lazier until the boost finally kicks in. So not only do you risk destroying your motor, you could end up with a car that's less fun to drive. And here's the kicker. Once you add a bigger turbo, the supporting mods list never ends. Intercooler, pistons, rods, head gaskets, exhaust, tuning, skip even one, and the whole system collapses. Oh, and the repair bill for a single blown head gasket? At least $2,000. So unless your wallet is ready for the full package, that oversized turbo might be the most expensive disappointment you'll ever buy. But while oversized turbos slowly push your engine to its breaking point, the next mod can destroy it in seconds. One press of a button, one hit of the gas, and your motor might never recover. Every car fan who's watched Fast and Furious knows the thrill of nitrous oxide. Hit the button, and suddenly you've got a massive power boost that feels like rocket fuel. But here's the truth they don't show you. Nitrous is one of the riskiest mods you can put on a street car. When nitrous floods your engine, it cranks up the heat and pressure inside the combustion chamber to extreme levels. Too much, too fast, and you're looking at cracked pistons, blown gaskets, and even a destroyed engine block. Repairs can run well over $8,000 if the car even survives. And here's the thing, even a safe, wet system isn't foolproof. Nitrous is stored as a liquid, but if gas makes its way into the intake instead, combustion becomes wildly unpredictable. That's why systems need to be purged, jetted correctly, and installed by someone who actually knows what they're doing. Get it wrong, and the next shot could be your engine's last. Worse yet, drivers often bolt nitrous onto cars that are poorly maintained to begin with. A weak fuel pump, old spark plugs, or worn pistons won't survive even a mild nitrous hit. Just a 50 horsepower shot on a neglected motor can mean instant destruction. And while a NOS blast might feel amazing, it's a temporary thrill with permanent consequences. The truth is, nitrous is better suited for drag cars with engines built to handle it, not daily drivers. But here's the scary part. Even if you avoid nitrous, there's a much sneakier way drivers are killing their engines. No bottle, no chemicals, just a few keystrokes that unlock power instantly and silently shave years off the life of your car. If you want a quick hit of horsepower without bolting on expensive parts, ECU tuning is the go-to move. A flash tune can give you sharper throttle response, more boost, and even up to 20% more horsepower on a naturally aspirated engine, and nearly 50% on a turbocharged one. Sounds like a steal, right? But here's the problem. When you remap the ECU without upgrading the rest of the system, you're setting your engine up for failure. Most tunes push fuel-air ratios to the edge, crank up the boost or extend the red line without beefing up injectors or fuel pumps, and suddenly you're running lean. Lean mixtures burn hotter, melt pistons, and torch spark plugs and exhaust valves. Go the other way and run too rich, and you're not safe either. Excess fuel washes away the protective oil film on cylinder walls, diluting your engine oil and grinding down pistons and rings. Over time, you're left with sludge, premature wear, and an engine that's been aged in 100,000 miles, all thanks to a simple flash tune. And the cruel irony? Most people get a tune for speed, but unless it's done with proper dyno testing and matched upgrades, the extra power won't even last. You'll notice a burst of performance, followed by gradual decline as your engine struggles under the strain. So yes, an ECU tune can be powerful, but in the wrong hands, it's one of the fastest ways to cut your engine's life short. And while tuning silently eats away at your motor, the next mod doesn't hide at all. In fact, you'll feel the damage every time you drive, because this one shakes your entire car apart from the inside. At first glance, lightweight flywheels sound like the ultimate performance hack. Less rotating mass means faster revs, quicker throttle response, and snappier acceleration. On a racetrack, that sounds like a dream. But on the street, it's a nightmare. Here's why. Stock flywheels are heavy for a reason. They store rotational energy that smooths out the violent pulses from each power stroke of your engine. Swap in a lightweight flywheel, and suddenly all those vibrations get dumped straight into your car. The result? Rough idling, constant chatter, and an engine that feels unstable at low RPMs. It doesn't end there. With less inertia, it takes more effort to get the car moving in stop-and-go traffic. Gear changes feel harsher, clutch engagement becomes unforgiving, and all that shock gets transferred down the line. Drive shafts, CV joints, and differentials, they all take the hit. That's a $1,500 plus repair bill waiting to happen. And it gets worse. Engines with lightweight flywheels tend to stall more often, overheat faster, and put extra strain on transmissions. Gear teeth wear out quicker, clutches slip, and eventually, you're looking at another $4,000 in transmission repairs. So unless your car lives exclusively on the track, lightweight flywheels aren't a performance upgrade. They're a reliability downgrade. But as bad as drivetrain shock is, the next so-called upgrade is even more brutal. Because when you mess with fuel delivery the wrong way, you're not just risking rough rides, you're risking total engine destruction. On paper, high-performance injectors and fuel pumps sound like a win. More fuel equals more power. Simple, right? The problem is, fuel delivery isn't simple at all. And if you upgrade injectors or pumps without balancing the rest of your system, you're asking for disaster. Here's what happens. The moment those oversized injectors start dumping more fuel, your ECU has to compensate. If the tune isn't perfect, you'll end up running too rich. That means excess fuel floods the cylinders, washing away the thin layer of oil that protects your pistons and rings. With no lubrication, metal grinds on metal, leaving you with scored pistons and worn-out rings. But it doesn't stop there. The unburnt fuel seeps past the rings into the crankcase, contaminating your oil. The result? Sludge buildup, reduced lubrication, and accelerated wear across every moving part. Before long, you're looking at $3,000 for pistons, $2,000 for a new catalytic converter, and up to $8,000 to clean out engine sludge. And here's the kicker. Those extra injectors don't even help unless your engine actually needs more fuel to support other performance mods. Without the airflow to match, all that extra fuel just goes to waste, leaving you with a slower, dirtier, less reliable car. So instead of unleashing hidden power, oversized injectors and pumps often do the exact opposite. They destroy engines faster than almost any other mod on this list. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. Because while these 11 mods are engine killers, there are upgrades that deliver huge horsepower gains safely, if you do them right. If performance mods are a balancing act of airflow in and exhaust out, then your cylinder heads and intake system are the gatekeepers. Start with a larger throttle body. By allowing more air into the intake manifold, you instantly improve combustion efficiency. The gains aren't just theoretical. You can add 5 to 15 horsepower right off the bat, with noticeable torque improvements too. But the real magic happens when you combine that throttle body with premium cold air intakes and aftermarket cylinder heads. Ported and polished heads let air flow more freely, maximizing every bit of oxygen your engine can use. Pair this with a properly sized intake, and suddenly you're unlocking serious horsepower increases that rival far riskier mods. The best part? These upgrades don't just give you peak power at high RPMs, they improve drivability across the board, smoother acceleration, better throttle response, and efficiency that doesn't come at the cost of your engine's lifespan. Of course, air in is only half the story. For the full effect, you need to focus on getting air out just as efficiently, and that's where a performance exhaust system comes in. Unlike straight pipes or muffler deletes that wreck scavenging and trigger fines, a proper performance exhaust is designed for balance. Long tube headers, a high-flow catalytic converter, and a quality catback system all work together to reduce back pressure while still keeping emissions in check. The result? Better scavenging, improved efficiency, and a throatier sound that won't get you pulled over. Build quality makes a huge difference here. Stainless steel lasts longer and resists corrosion, while titanium is lighter, resists heat, and develops that signature blue-purple finish gearheads love. Yes, titanium costs more, but it also shaves weight and holds up better over time. The payoff is clear. A properly tuned exhaust doesn't just give you more top-end power, it also boosts torque in the low and mid-range. That means quicker launches, smoother pulls, and an engine that feels stronger everywhere, without the risks of engine knock, overheating, or legal trouble. Once your intake and exhaust are optimized, you're ready for performance camshafts, this time done right. Performance cams hold the valves open longer, letting in more air and fuel at higher RPMs. When combined with upgraded valve springs and retainers, you can safely unlock 40 to 50 extra horsepower without risking valve float or bent stems. The trade-off is a rougher idle and weaker low-end torque. But for drivers chasing high RPM power, it's one of the best upgrades out there. And with airflow maxed out, the next step is a professional dyno tune. Unlike risky flash tunes, a dyno tune customizes your ECU map to your exact setup, optimizing ignition timing, boost, and fuel delivery. Done right, it can add 20% more power in naturally aspirated cars and up to 50% more in boosted builds, safely. Finally, the crown jewel. Forced induction done right. A full turbo or supercharger kit, matched with forged pistons, stronger rods, a high-flow fuel system, and custom tuning, can transform a car completely. A stock Civic Type R can go from 316 horsepower to over 450 with a proper setup. The difference? Reliability. Instead of grenading your engine with backyard installs, you build it to last, and enjoy a daily driver that feels like a track weapon. So there you have it, the truth about performance mods. For every flashy upgrade promising instant horsepower, there's often a hidden cost. Destroyed pistons, cracked gaskets, drained wallets, and in some cases, even a car that's slower than it was stock. From camshafts and spark plugs to oversized injectors and nitrous, the wrong mods can cut your engine's life in half, or worse, end it in seconds. But here's the good news. When you choose your upgrades wisely, the story flips. Cylinder head and intake improvements, a proper exhaust, supported camshafts, professional dyno tuning, and well-built forced induction can take your car from average to extraordinary, safely. With the right setup, you can double your horsepower, sharpen throttle response, and make your ride more exciting than ever, all without throwing reliability out the window. At the end of the day, performance isn't about chasing shortcuts or cutting corners. It's about building balance, respecting engineering, and investing in upgrades that work together instead of against each other. Do it wrong, and you're left with a smoking wreck. Do it right, and you've got a machine that turns heads and keeps pulling for years to come. So the question is, will your mods make your car stronger, or destroy it from the inside out? The choice is yours.